All right, and welcome to this year's value-based leadership panel discussion event. We are live from Helsinki, Finland, here at GoForce 8th floor penthouse premises. My name is Lasse Pirinen, I'm from Gofore, and I'm going to be your host for this evening, for this event. I have besides me four eager value-based leadership students who are soon going to be sharing their thoughts with us on what has been happening in the value-based leadership training program, some of the topics they've been discussing. But before that, if you're now wondering, what is this VBL or value-based leadership thingy, you haven't heard about it, let me just briefly tell you that it's a training program organized by the Guides and Scouts of Finland. And it's a program for young future leaders of our country from ages 20 to 29 who are currently working in some voluntary-based leadership position in their lives to come and train how to be even better leader through their values. All right, if you want to know more about it, go to parempaajohtajuutta.fi or follow the hashtag parempaajohtajuutta or the hashtag VBLSuomi from your favorite social medias. But without further ado, let's meet our panelists today. The first thing I'm interested in is how you ended up in this value-based leadership training. What's your kind of story behind why you're here? Let's start with you.
Thank you. My name is Elias Herva. My background is in Aalto University. I have been studying water and environmental engineering. And I'm passionate about making the world a better place for us. Creating it through a better leadership and improving my interests. I think this course has been offering a unique possibility to increase my potential to develop the world.
Cool. Hi, I'm Henna Pursiainen, and I'm also in this VBL course. I study social sciences in the University of Helsinki, and for the past 3 years I've been acting in different student organizations. And 1 year I was at the executive board of the University of Helsinki, the student union. And then after that, I got involved in the labor organizations, which might sound a bit weird, but I'm basically, I don't know if it sounds weird, but it's always when I'm explaining this in English, like when you go to the Europe and explain about something labor organizations related, there are people like, okay, what's that? So what I do, I represent over 100,000 students that study in Finland and try to make a better place for them to study and also work in Finland. And why I'm here besides that, because I've had so many friends going through this course, this VBL, and I've heard so much about it. And then I thought that this is something I really need. And I remember back in the fall of 2017, I was going to the interview, and I don't know how many times I said it, like, I need to be in this course. I need to be there. I want to be there. Please pick me. So I ended up here. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Saara Hanhela. I'm from Kuopio, Eastern Finland. I have to say that because it's really important for me because there are so many people from Helsinki, so Kuopio is like the best place you can be. So I'm from Kuopio, and I'm a Master of Social Sciences, and I'm active now mainly we have this society of alumnus that have been earlier active in our student union of University of Eastern Finland. So I'm active there, and I'm also active in our Central Party Finland. And those positions that I have there has made me think really much about values and how my values or our values show in our everyday life. So I have many friends as well as Henna that has gone through this this program, and they urged me to apply, and so now I'm here.
Awesome. My name is Taru Salmi, and I'm doing gender studies in Helsinki University and also some leadership at my school, from the gender point of view mostly, and equality. But I've also, during my whole time in the university for 5 years, been organizing or being part of different organizations, mainly in the student unions. As like Henna, student unions sounds very bad, so osakunnat. Now,
Well, it doesn't to me.
but it sounds a bit different. Like, what is that? But being part of there a lot, doing different kind of things. Also having a lot of responsibility as a leader over there. And yeah, I'm also at my work, I'm doing some rethinking how leadership should be managed in our organization. So that's why I'm technically here.
Wow. All right. And with these 4 people, we're now gonna start off with some reflection. I've understood that you've been now, is it 6 months or so when you started this value-based leadership training? What has been the main points? What has changed in your thinking during this time learning to be a value-based leader? Who wants to start?
I don't know where to begin. No, but it really has like shaped my understanding of what kind of person I am, what kind of person or what kind of a leader and what kind of a team member I am, and how I interact with other people, and being sort of more aware of how I interact and how others react to my interaction, like sort of the whole process behind that, and understand better how there are different types or styles how you can be a leader, and each of us has like a sort of our own way of being a leader, and how to, you know, find that way, your own way, and be comfortable in your own skin as a leader, and then go further from there.
I have been starting, or what comes to my thinking, I'm used to think about my own values, but during this course I have been starting to think more and more about what values other people have. Because most of the people have some of the same basic values, but we have also, all of us, our personal values. And I want to understand what are the personal values of the people I'm working with. And that helps me to making more value with my people.
Do you feel like you changed during this training?
I think that there is a lot of pressure about decision making in when I'm young, eager, and there are a lot of decision making in my individual life, but also in my positions. So I think that the biggest thing that I have learned here during the training is that I'm going to, or I'm reflecting all my decisions with my values. So it's like a really huge thing when you think about I have to make this and this and this decision, and it's making my head explode. So when you have to make a decision, you can always think about listen to yourself and your values, and that's something huge that I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. All the things. There's so many things to learn, but maybe the biggest thing that has changed in my way of thinking is the feedback, how I figure feedback about. And what is the reason to give feedback? If you want to change anything, you want to have feedback and give it also back to get it more efficient. And that's, I think, one of the most biggest things that has changed during this half year.
Okay, well, now we're talking about value-based leadership. We pretty much all know what values are, but how would you define what is a leader? Dun, dun, dun.
Question.
When I told for my father that I'm in this course, and he was like, "Oh, you're interested in leadership." I was like, "Well, isn't everyone interested?" And he was like, "I don't know." And he was asking, "How do you define it?" Because he's like in his late 50s, and he thinks about really differently about leadership than I think. And I think that leadership and being a leader is like an everyday life. You don't have to be a leader in some organization, but you can. The main thing that you are leading yourself, and through that, you can make the world a better place.
And also help others. When you lead yourself well, it's easier to lead others onwards with their lives. And I think that's a very big thing about leadership, that you help others and like maybe pointing away or showing them a way or giving them just a kick on the ass and let you go off of it a bit. But I totally agree that's within all of us. It comes like it's everybody of us are leaders and makes.
You don't need the title to be a leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think it's in Finland very common that you
Yeah.
need the title to call yourself a leader.
Yeah.
And it's not like common to say that I lead something. I think Finns are, but this is stereotyping, I know, but from what I've like learned from our discussions during the past weekends is that I think there's some kind of like a mental, I don't know, barrier or something before you can say yourself that you're a good leader or what kind of a leader you are.
Yeah.
There's some sort of that you want to lead, because if you say like point blank, I want to be a leader and I want to be in the leading position, then well, for a company it may be or in a workplace, oh, go for it. But I think there are a lot of people who are afraid to say that.
Yeah.
Or won't say it, even if they think about it. I personally have been one of them, because I've always thought that I'm going to be like this expert and be a team member and I'm good at it and also like that kind of stuff. And then like I've been making the process of thinking that why shouldn't I or why couldn't I be a leader in my own way? And started the whole process from there.
Yeah. So going against the stereotypes in that sense.
Yeah, just to say.
Well said, Henna. I have the same kind of thinking in my own. But I would point out that, or my approach about this leadership is communication. It's always about communication. But the communication, it's not about talking or about sending messages or writing a blog. It's also about 100% interaction. How do you stand? How do you do they get eye contact? It's all about interaction.
Yeah, and I have to stress on that. Even though I speak, I feel like I've been talking about me the whole time, and I think about being a leader is not talking about you. It's about enabling the other people to like thrive and get them to do what they can do best. So
Exactly.
but that's my personal view. Since we're in a like a training where you have to think your own ways to lead.
And you have to know your way before you can help the others, I think.
Yes.
Well, how would you contrast? We have the term leader, but then we also have this other term called manager. How would you contrast these two? What's the difference between being a leader and what is a manager in this aspect?
I think we forget it often because in Finnish you don't make the difference between these two. So it's something that we should think a lot more, actually.
I think managers are more about dividing the task and checking that everything is done, and leader is it's more about sharing the thoughts and sharing the dreams and sharing the values and vision what we are having, sharing the dreams.
The reason I'm asking this is because today, just a little bit ago, we were talking here at GoForest office that can you use technology to replace part of the leadership process? Or maybe is it so that you can use technology to replace management, but not so leadership?
Oh,
How do you
yes.
feel about this?
Because I've been waiting for like a personal assistant that I can just put all the management things and focus on the leadership more, because there's still a lot of things that you have to check the timetables or make the structure so that people can be the best version of themselves. And of course there's a lot of talk about the how do you say, what's the word for itseohjautuva, the
Self-guidance?
self-guidance and towards that kind of thinking. But you still have to get, like, I think that you have to have some kind of structure for the people in order to get them their work done in that like sort of framework, but not these tight chunks of things. And I think that the most important thing is that if we can benefit something from the technology, then we should do it. But it's not like the focus or the objective as in itself, but it's just like a way of doing things in a different way.
I think technology and AI can make management easier, or it can make maybe almost all management that is needed in organization and corporations. But it's not going to happen easily, and it's going to take some time. But I think leadership is a bit different. It's not totally different, but because leadership is like you have to define the values and share the vision, and it's about communication and interaction. Of course, AI can make calls and send messages and everything based on some values that it have someone have given to them. But it's also something that it's maybe not possible to do. I'm sure. What do you think?
Connection, I think, that you want to hear, that to have the feeling that you're heard and your feelings are also maintained.
Yeah, but if you have like a platform,
Yeah.
you can do it online. And if you're working in Helsinki and the other one is working in, I don't know, in New York, let's think big, then it's easier that you have like the platform where you can lead the people if you can't face them face to face, or then you have Skype or Google Hangouts and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not the technology in itself. But
At
it's
least.
just, yeah.
Right.
Actually, technology has already redefined what is management. We have the Outlook calendars, and we have emails and everything, and that's all. Everything is like used to be management. What have been done differently? It's already happened once, and it's going to happen again.
But also in the sense of the way we see leadership in Finland and in different kinds of organizations, I think that is also changing or has changed, like during the past, I don't know, 10 years. Or maybe it's just sort of like putting the focus more into the leadership and not just the manager role, and rethinking, I don't know, the different kinds of leaders. Because I still feel and sense that there's a lot of these expectations. If you say that you're a leader, and they expect you to be like the strong and very, I don't know, powerful, not in an overly powerful way, but still like you have a strict I don't know, sense of doing, and I don't know, you can do it in so many ways. At least I think for a leader you have to be like, you have to have the vision or the goal. What are we aiming at, and how to get the people working towards that goal.
Yeah.
But you can do it in so many ways.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, now we discussed what's leadership, and I'd like to go into the broader topic now that you've been studying for the past 6 months, which is the value-based leadership. And how do you lead based on your values? But to get there, would you like to share some of your values and what they are?
Sure. Since I'm already talking, I can start. Well, what we did was this kind of mapping through a lot of values, and well, I took only 3 to mention here, which I think are the most important ones. But I had openness, aim for change, and inspiring other people.
Wow.
Thank
Impressive.
you.
Wow. Yeah. I will take two.
Okay.
I think there can be like two or three that are making the road for you, and the things that you have to have clear in your mind. Mine first is to communicate. To communicate between people. I think there's nothing that can replace the real interaction between people. So that's really important for me. And the other is to create something new, to like, yeah, to create.
Okay.
Well, I can also like choose three, and one of them is the sense of purpose. I have to have the meaning or the some kind of way that I can relate to that topic and find some purpose in it. And I think it's to me it's not about the long hours or the hardworking stuff, but it has to have like a specific meaning or personal meaning to me what I'm doing. And also combined to that, there's also has to be like some sort of sense of developing and going forward. Well, no, maybe forward, but just developing things. And that's also, I think, if I'm being honest, I love to make, if someone has an idea, I'm probably the first one to react to it and say, we could do it in that kind of way. I'm not the first, saying maybe the ideas, but I'm always like, yes, that's a good idea. And I like to get like inspired by that. But it also, because I'm always like thinking, what could I do and what could we do better? It's sometimes hard to draw the line. Like, where are the standards and what is enough? And that's, I think, something that I've reflected on during this course. What is enough? And what would I like, the best positive or the best result, and then the result that I'm happy with. And there are two different things.
Yeah.
And also, I have the same as Sara to communicate, because I think like changing ideas and information, you get the best result, and that's also something that I get energy from.
Wow. My core values is making change together. It's not the one value. It includes that I'm not happy the situation of the world right now. And I think the changes have to be done together. It can't be done by one individual or 2 individuals or 7 billion individuals. It's done together, and that drives me towards the better world.
Okay, so that's lovely.
Yeah.
If we take that then and now try to translate, okay, we have a list of values. How do I lead with them? Say that, okay, you have this value that let's do things together. That's pretty simple, I would say, to make those decisions in your workday life or your living situation. If somebody's left out, hey, let's contribute and take him in or her in. But if you have some more abstract values, say that I want everybody to be as happy as possible. How do you take that and make it into a way of leading?
I think it comes down to that when you have to make the hard decision, you think about your values and think what would be like the better way to go, even though it would be the harder way, but it kind of helps you to take the harder way instead of the easy way, just because you've thought about your values and what you think is moral and ethical and right in that sense in the situation. That so it kind of also gives you guidance to take the harder way, I think.
And also doing that and using a metaphor, which is something I really like. and I think the values, this is kind of like a cliche, but it just was sort of a way for me to understand the whole thing, is that the values are like stars in the sky, and you can have the goals or objectives that you want to like go towards, and then you can see the sky and always remember the values. Or then we have another metaphor, which is about a flower. I don't know what blomme in English is, but a sort of like a special flower that is in the water, and there are the roots, and basically the roots are your values, and what it shows from like above the surface is your actions, and how do your actions and values connect. and sometimes it's really hard
Yeah.
because you can say that I believe in fairness, but then does it show in your every action or most of the actions that you do if you want to give
Exactly.
yourself some slack or to say that it's not always being perfect.
Yeah.
But I think that's like the hardest part when you found something that resonates. Like values are over, well, in our guidebook there are over like 500, I think. But it's not about, you cannot say what are best values, and because there are sort of very different ways
Yeah.
to understand them and approach to them.
Yeah.
Because one notion that I had, because we have these smaller groups that we work in, and we have very different values. Even though I can see that we have sort of same way of thinking, but very like different way of understanding values. And for example, the fairness, I think it's, you cannot have purpose and development and communication without them. So it's sort of like a basis, and then,
Absolutely.
but other people think it the other way around.
Yeah.
And I think it's very fascinating to learn and to see like,
Yeah.
how do you think that way?
Yeah.
And the
And-
whole process.
Like when you say that communication and communicate is one of your core values, and I say that openness is one of my like core values, I also in that some sense do mean the same thing, because for
But
my
to me, they're not the same.
yeah, they're not the same exactly, but it's like maybe still some of the actions could be the same. Yeah.
And of course, we said like a 1 or 2 or 3 values, and we have, of course, we give value also for another things than just those. And it's in leadership, it's not all about our values. It's also about the other people values, and finding the shared values what we all have, and then we can work more efficient when we know what we are sharing in the value.
So well said.
Yeah, I want to add one thing because now during this course we all have some kind of idea that how I want to lead, and we have this awesome thing that is included in this program, that we have mentors as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and my mentor has told me like many times that, Saara, maybe you should lead in the way that you want to be leaded. And that's really important for me, like to think that, okay, that's the thing, how I want to be leaded, I want to lead in that way.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You have these mentors
Yeah.
there. I didn't know.
I wanted
you
to
all-
add that because my mentor is really awesome. Yeah.
So you all have mentors?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you been happy with that? Like, is it a
Yeah.
good thing?
Yeah, great thing.
Absolutely, to change the ideas and information and to
Yeah.
communicate. Well, but yeah, and get the sense of the mentors are older than we, and I think I have my mentor is this funny Finnish guy who's in his 50s, a really nice guy, and just it's been so fantastic to interact with and talk with him, because he's saying he sees like the things from another perspective, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
but then also like reflect some of the things, and he's talked a lot about his own career and the decisions that he's made, and he's not trying to like say you should do this, but more like a coach and say something that, are you really sure that you cannot do this, or you can do, well, you know, he doesn't say the other way around, because for me it's all about, because just saying that I'm afraid of failing, and just say it out loud.
Yeah.
And he says, why are you so afraid of it? Because you can always like
Yeah.
do another
Yeah.
time and make it better, and sort of like just pushing me
Yeah.
a little bit to
Yeah.
the somewhere where I'm not so comfortable. Like
Yeah.
for instance, this situation where we are.
Yeah. And just always asking the why questions, because
Yeah.
you so
Yeah.
often forget to do that for yourself. And like maybe around people who are at the same age and the same situation, they just kind of like, yeah, that's obvious. But then because they have so different perspective, they have so much more. They've worked so many years as leaders, so they have they just always remember like, but why is it like that? Why is that you think it like this?
And also some situations that are like a familiar to them.
Yeah.
And sort of reflect or you can train how the other person maybe would react, or what kind of reactions if you would do like a new decision in your team, sort of change the way you lead or you do together things. And he's just like being a mirror to that, what kind of reflections, and just showing the way or hearing me out and then saying like, are you sure about that? And how about this thing? And kind of like challenging. And I find it very rewarding.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, going back to the original topic a little bit, the values and defining them and then using them as a leader. Isn't it kind of like when you're defining your own values, you're defining yourself, right? So when you use that as a leader, that kind of puts you out there. That's your core self that needs to be driven in some way. That makes you quite vulnerable, right? So do you feel like it's a tough situation? How do you handle that?
Well, I can start because I have an example from this week. We are having this huge reform in Finland. Maybe you have heard it, social and healthcare system reform, sote-uudistus. And I'm working as a coordinator in Southern Savo and doing the reform there. And it's been quite tough weeks now. Because we were expecting that we could have some laws and we could go on and do more coordinating stuff and things I do at work, and they didn't come. So the laws didn't come. So everyone's really disappointed. We are having a big meeting with our team. And we are trying to focus that, okay, how we go on now, And usually I'm really energetic and I'm like full of like all the smile and yeah, we can do this and everything's nice. And they were all looking for me like this. Okay, how are we going to handle this? And expecting that I would be like this. I was really tired, really, really tired. And I was thinking, okay, my main value is to communicate and to be open like Taru as well. So I said, I'm really tired now. Maybe someone else can be the happy person now, please. They were like, oh my God, it's so nice that you are telling this to us because we've been thinking that you are so happy all the time, that is it all fake or what? And they were really happy about it, that I said it out loud. And it made me really proud for myself as well. Like, okay, I'm doing the things that are important to me and I'm doing them in my own way. So showing your vulnerability is something that I have like learned during this course.
Well, that was a good example.
Yeah. It came into my mind just
Just now.
a little bit earlier today.
Have you others have this kind of experience that you have to put yourself, kind of open yourself to be vulnerable and be at risk to getting hurt?
Yeah.
Because of your value-based leadership, you want to go through your values. So have you had these kind of experiences?
Well, about openness, I with my own board, we had this situation outside our board, and we had to handle it during the spring. And I just, because it was a very hard situation for myself to handle, and I didn't know what would be the right way to do it. I ended up telling them all about it and talking a lot with them about it. And I don't know, it just felt so good to get their support. And they're also like, what is happening? How are we going to handle this? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure we're going to handle this, but I just want to tell you guys that this is what's happening now. And it was so important for me. And I was also so proud of myself to such a small thing, but I ended up giving my vice board member okay, I just can't come to this meeting. I want you to handle it. And I knew that he could. But everybody was like, you're not coming to the meeting. It was quite early spring and we started only in January with our board. So everybody was like, are you sure? Like, are we really gonna yeah, you're gonna handle it. I'm sure. You'll just do fine. I'm just gonna need some rest and I'll be fine in the next meeting. Okay? I'm like, yeah, okay. And everything went well and everything figured itself out. And so it ended up well, but it also showed me the power to communicate and be open about it, and also just to share things and we can find the solutions together. I think it's so important.
And sometimes being the first one as a leader to say that you can't handle something or you're in a lot of stress, because this is some example that I just thought of, because during the spring I've been pretty stressed out at times and having a lot of things to do, and just for me, I don't know if it's about the fear of failure or just like believing that I can do it, and if I say that I'm having some struggling with it, then it doesn't mean that I won't be able to do it, but just to like be more tell people more about how I feel if I'm not like very, or if I'm a stressful situation or something like that, and just being able to communicate that with the others and being the example, because then we had a round of like, how's it going? And I don't know if it was me that said that I'm a bit stressed out, then it just opened up and we had a good talk about what's going on besides the thing that we were meant to do as volunteering work, because it affects in so many ways our doing, and we thought that okay, this is a bit too much. We don't have the time to do it as well, or we have to change the way we do this project or something. So
Yeah,
an example of
exactly. Showing and showing or speaking about our own weaknesses is like it's always challenging, at least for me. But it also helps to build trust. It's about telling that any one of us is not perfect, and trust is always needed in working with people, and it's not always that easy to build. At least if you're like you all have a busy life and you have so many projects going on, and then you have put it in a new team, and then you should do something together, but you don't know each other before, so it's also a tool for building trust. And or can help it, even though it doesn't feel that nice.
and also it goes the other way around,
Yeah.
because you're having maybe some trouble with it, and for example your team might have some troubles if you don't have the trust and show that you're not. Maybe you have some struggles or the fear of being neglected or humiliated, and all these like super, I don't know, basic fears or needs that we have, and just to like figure out how they affect the way that you work or interact with others. If you have a strong sense of being that I might be humiliated right now, so maybe you won't take risks, or you don't. But if you have the feeling that it's okay, and the other people won't laugh at me if I'm standing here, then you might be able to do it. And the others as well.
Well, going to our next topic then, talking about values. As a Goforian, I'm really interested in, you've been now spending time here, was it yesterday and today? Or doing all kinds of activities and panels and group works. And Gofor's values are that we are a great workplace and that we thrive on customer success. Have you seen these values in effect here during your stay?
I just think like Gofore taking part of this kind of thing, having us here in the office, is kind of shows already that they're already like very interested about also developing their personnel, but also it also already shows me that they have some values that they're following up.
And also that we've found maybe some, during our discussions, some things that we're like really making a lot of questions about, is this really the best way to do it? And how do you do it? And okay, does it work? What do the co-workers here think of it? And just like being also open to criticism and the different ways of thinking or approaching that. You're saying that you have this kind of culture here and this kind of, these ways of doing, but it's not the patent solution to everything. You have to find your own version of it, and I think that's been one of the best things to hear.
I'm actually quite impressed about the Gofore values, because like the first value is about the people. It's about the Gofore team. It's about persons and people who are working, and that's like so humane value that it gives a value and builds trust like immediately for the team. And I think you can sense the trust in this organization.
I think that the new way to do the leadership and be a leader is like to recognize individuals and their needs and to support the needs that individuals have. And I think that it shows here in Gofore and its values as well. And I think that's something that we all are going on.
And it was fascinating to see how you're using technology to maintain also these values. So I think it's very cool.
But it's also interesting, even though you have like a flat structure, then we've also discussed earlier during this training about power techniques or strategies. How do you use power in non-verbal ways and just like a physical, if I'm doing this, I'm using power so that Elias won't be part of this discussion. And just sort of some of them are subconscious and others are used consciously.
Yeah.
But even though you have like the structure-wise very flat, it doesn't, when there's people, there's conflict. And just sort of how to solve those kind of issues as well.
Okay, well, since we're talking about Gofore and then that we are a company that needs to make money, now how would you kind of translate this? And you have your values and they can be as lovely as this. I want everybody to feel good or that Gofore is a good workplace for everybody. But the company needs to make money for it to exist. Do you feel like it creates a conflict or how do you see this?
I don't see there a conflict either. I see there are huge possibility because we all are making impact to this world. Part of the impact is done through our work or through our job. And we all should focus that our work is based on our values, or we can do work that is not doesn't have conflict with our own values. And when our values and the corporation values are shared, at least partly, it allows that when you're working, you are making an impact through your values. And when you are making profit through your values, it makes possible to scale up the impact what is based on your values. So actually making the profit makes possible to make a larger impact through your values.
Wow.
Well said.
Very well said.
You guys agree? Yeah.
Yeah, I think making money is the bonus. But first you have the people and the values and start from that, because you can make money nowadays and not be like attached to your values or in places where the leadership is based on some kind of values or they're just like said but not like really used in the everyday routines, and that's really a challenge. But still, I'd like to change that.
So you kind of see that it's a side product then, like you said, it's a reward of it, and the values go first, and then you kind of have to make the leap of faith. You trust that if you work based on
ideal.
ideal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what also I've been training myself to do is to dream and say what I'm dreaming of. And in not sort of, sinä hassu maailmanparantaja, or just like you're a dreamer, huh? But we need those dreams in order to make the impossible possible. I know this is like a blah, 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 cliche, but really we need those things in order to make the impossible things and the changes that we need.
Well, talking about impossible changes or just changes that we're going to make, how do you see your future after this course, after the value-based leadership course has ended? What fruits have you gotten from all of this, and how are you going to use them in your personal venture forward?
Well, I hope. I think I really like how it's combined, because we had 4 weekend modules and Gofore was just part 1 of it. But I think we also got so deep within ourselves and within the group that we found something changed so thoroughly that it's very hard to change it back also, that you've understood something about yourself so deeply that you can not learn it anymore and not do it. And you don't probably even notice what are those things, but just having that kind of calmness and trust in yourself. And we got in a lot of like good ways of doing that in concrete ways also, how to make the change and within yourself, but also within your leadership. So, and just having this kind of jewel at the end, find out how Go For It does it, and kind of seeing how it's practiced and seeing a lot of the same practices here. I think it's hard to say how we're going to use it, but I'm sure even though I wouldn't want to use them, I would.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that it doesn't, like, if you're in a leading position or you're not in a leading position, or you're like to be leaded, you can take a part of everything that's been decided. Like, I don't know the word osallisuus. Like, how you can always be a part of everything, and you have to like take some responsibility about what our group is doing, and everyone can do that. It's not only that the leader is doing that and taking the responsibility, but everyone of
You have
us.
to make the choice.
And everyone can make a huge impact on what we are doing together. I think that's something I want to keep clear in my mind.
Yeah.
One thing I think I'm in a way in sort of like a crossroads where I'm thinking of what am I going to do when I'm big or when I graduate. I hope very soon, but it's a slow process. but also of trying to, on how I view my own weaknesses or things that I want to improve. And for me, it was I don't know, a big change of thinking, but I'm always it's easier for me to focus on the weaknesses and things that have to get better or improve, but also to think the other way around, that something where you're good at, and how about making your strengths and spill those in different areas where you're not used to use them, and sort of like think through positive instead of focusing on the negative sides. And that's more, I get a lot of more energy from it. And just thinking that, is there something or maybe it's also about the sense of something familiar and comfortable, but use those and make them or take them with you into somewhere where you're not comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm sure that this value-based leadership program will help me to be not just a better leader, but also like a better person. Because we are all leaders. We all interact with each other every day. So it's not just like some small things. It's like everyday actions, everyday choices, everyday communication, what I can do now better and have greater impact through my values.
And also, don't expect anything, just ask. Because that's just sort of very simple thing, but to get that into action in your everyday doing is it does make an impact.
So true.
Right, well, let's wrap things up. Thank you to our lovely panelists. Can we have raging applause? Also, wow! Thank you very much for our live audience for being with us all this time. And thank you everybody at home as well for watching. We will see you in future events.